Hello, servant leaders. Okay, week 4. 3 things I want to focus on, and these are primarily derived from the servant leader text by Blanchard and Hodges. Today, we're going to talk situational leadership. My goals today are 1, to identify situational leadership, understand it. 2, recognize the roles of diagnosis, flexibility, and partnerships. These are the 3 key traits of situational leadership that lend so beautifully to servant leadership. And then lastly, let's connect the dots. Let's apply situational leadership to servant leadership. How do those things work so nicely together? Okay, so let's take a step back before we take a step forward. In any leadership role, you have 2 primary tasks. Now, granted, you have many secondary tasks, but your primary tasks, if you envision yourself as a leader, you're always juggling, right? And I love how this dude's like got his tongue hanging out and he's concentrating and he's a little nervous. That looks about right for leadership. So as a leader, we're always juggling, focusing on, and keeping the following 2 balls in the air, and that is people and that is productivity. Okay? What does your leadership look like when you are focused on people? It looks like support. It looks like taking that extra time to listen to your employee or your coworker share their challenges, their struggles. It might look like encouragement. It might look like giving somebody extra responsibility. When we're supporting them, we're growing them. So that's our first task as a leader, is people. Second then is productivity. Okay, what does productivity look like? This most oftentimes looks like direction. This might be a new hire going to training class and learning all the product knowledge to become competent in selling your goods or service. This might be giving someone specific directions as, okay, step 1, we need to do this. Step 2, we need to do this. Or it might be correction, helping guide, redirect, get that employee back on track. Now, again, these 2 pieces always need to be focused on. We can never let those balls drop. But servant leadership and this week's situational leadership, I think you will find, provides that balance. It puts the effort in people when they need it. But then once you have invested in that people side, in the support, the productivity follows. Okay, so let's break down the situational leadership model. Okay, situational leadership, you'll see the diagram on the left. I'm going to take you through each of these 4 quadrants. Now, before I get into that, I just want to underscore success of situational leadership resides upon these 3 things. Number 1, diagnosis. Diagnosing, assessing where your people are at. What do they know? Okay, if they know a lot, they have high competency. How committed are they? Are they like, yeah, I'll do this till I find something better? Or are they tearing the world apart, so excited to be part of the organization? So we have to diagnose first our people's skill level. Where are they at on this chart? Then 2, we need to be flexible, meaning we have to lead accordingly. And this is where you determine, do my people need my direction? Do they need instruction, guidance, specific task-oriented info? Or do they need support? Do they need me to cheer them on, to give them feedback, to give them additional responsibility, to grow them? Okay, so that's the flexibility piece. And then the third step is really the byproduct. How then do we partner with the right people and the right teams according to the task and according to the person? So situational leadership in S1. Okay, these individuals have very low competence, okay, and oftentimes very low commitment. So they need high direction. We first have to build their confidence. So think of an employee going to training. Think of the weeks you spend onboarding in a new role. This is heavy on the directive and lower on the supportive side, okay? Then the S2 quadrant. Okay, now we have people who are gaining competence. But many times in a new role, we drink from that fire hose, right? We learn so much at once that we become overwhelmed and that fire goes out a little bit. So in an S2 phase, we need to be both highly directive and highly supportive, okay? This is the peak, the intensity of the employee life cycle. This is where you need to not only continue to train in new situations, continue to layer on product knowledge for the more advanced employee, but you got to cheer them on and you got to pick them up when they're down and you got to help them brush themselves off and get back out there. Okay, S3, that is the supporting role. This is your more mature employee, okay? These folks need less direction, but they still need that high support. This might be your senior traveling salesperson who's good at their job. They know their stuff, but they need that support because maybe they feel isolated. Maybe they feel lack of motivation because they're a one-person team in their vehicle every day driving to client meetings. Staying in contact with them, learning what might help them. Maybe that's resources. Maybe that's a daily check-in call. Maybe that's just simply telling them, you're doing a great job. I trust you. Keep up the great work. And then as we move into the S4 quadrant, okay, these are ideally where you want to get your people. Now, that's not to say we can't move backwards, okay? I have been an S4 and taken on a new leadership role, and then I needed potentially an S2. Go backwards, learn the new things I need to know, the support, the encouragement, and I rework the cycle. So in a delegating phase, S4, low support and low direction. These are the folks that are like, let me do my job and get out of my way, okay? The daily check-ins do not matter to these folks. S4s are internally motivated. They have goals before them. They have drive. They're self-starters. Now, low support and low direction does not mean no support or no direction. But what you're doing here is you're diagnosing, okay, where is this employee at? And then you're flexing your leadership according to that individual and the task before them and partnering with them moving forward. So let's put this together, okay? So as a situational leader, your first step is to diagnose, assess. So if I have a brand new hire who's never worked on a sales team before, these folks are kind of my bread and butter, right? They often have low competence and high commitment. They're fired up. Let's do this. I'm going to make a killing, right? So these folks are your S1s. They need that high direction. Our D2s, these are the folks now, maybe they're 2 months in and they've absorbed a lot of product knowledge. And now they're frustrated because the sales are not busheling. The pipeline has not been built. So we see the commitment wane. So now we need to continue the direction, but we also have to up the support. Our D3s, okay, these people are moderately to highly competent, but they might have variable levels of commitment. Maybe they're questioning their role. Maybe they have some life changes where they need less on the direction side and more on the support side. And then here we have our D4s, okay? These are our dream employees, high competence, high commitment. But here's the rub. They've moved through this cycle. And according to the task and according to the person, sometimes we go back and we got to redevelop new competencies, okay? So we diagnose. Then the flexibility piece, we lead according to their level. Again, directive means exacting information. It's very specific. It's very comprehensive. Think of a training manual. Supportive leadership then is listening to that person in front of you, encouraging them. Maybe you're taking your employee out to lunch to reward or praise them, or maybe you just know they need the support. Praise, being involved in their life and in their career, okay? And then the third step, as mentioned, is to adjust as needed. And here's the piece that's a lot harder to teach. There is an element of experience, there is an element of instinct, and there's a big element of faith to know what your people need according to where they're at. Okay, so let's connect the dots here. Situational leadership. I just want to give you a snapshot of how Jesus' time spent on earth, he beautifully moved his disciples through these 4 stages. So imagine S1, right? Jesus recruits a bunch of ragtag fishermen. Come with me. Follow me. I will make you fishers of men. And these individuals are like, sweet, sounds cool, right? They're pumped up, but they have no idea what they're getting into. Now let's take an S2. Okay, these are the folks now that are learning. They're watching Jesus work miracles. They're watching him heal. Well, here comes a sermon with 5,000 plus people, actually estimated to be more like 10,000 because the Bible account didn't count women and children. So here we have a disciple who's instructed to go feed the people. And he comes back with 5 loaves and 2 fish going, uh-oh, now what? He's probably feeling like, hey, this isn't all it's cracked up to be, right? He's feeling defeated. He's feeling incapable of achieving this task. This level, Jesus supported his disciples. He performed a miracle before their very eyes. Okay, S3, let's call out Peter, dear Peter, right? Now we're moving along here. Peter has some higher competencies and higher commitments, but here comes the variables. Jesus tells him to walk on water. I give it to Peter. He hopped out of that boat and he took those first steps. And then guess what? Panic set in. He was scared. Fear. The reality of the fact I'm walking on water. What is going on? And he cried out. And you know what Jesus did? He was right there to pluck him out of the water and support and encourage. Those are our S3s. Now let's take S4 to the Last Supper. Jesus' final time, final words of instruction and love and encouragement for his disciples, knowing he was soon going to meet his end here on earth. What did Jesus do? He washed their dirty, smelly, sandal-clad feet. He washed their feet. He served them. And then he provided instruction, but he reminded his disciples, you are never alone. I am with you. So again, even in an S4, Jesus didn't just drop the disciples in the bucket. He may be leaving, but his leadership and access to him is always with him. Okay, so by way of wrap up, we identified and really took a good look at situational leadership. Then we recognized the goal of diagnosis, flexibility, and partnerships. And then we connected the dots, situational leadership, and how that overlaps beautifully with servant leadership. Thank you, folks. Have a great week.